Hello and welcome to this presentation, introducing a virtual mobility project in the language curriculum at third level. My name is Florence LeBaron Earle. I'm a university teacher in French and technology in the School of Modern Languages and Applied Linguistics at the University of Limerick. Today, I'm going to report on the development of virtual exchange that was offered instead of Erasmus mobility due to the COVID-19 pandemic travel restrictions. So let's start with talking about internationalization. It is one of the key strategic goals set by the University of Limerick. There are many initiatives which welcome international students and also support our own students to study abroad. As a result to these efforts, UL has won the Best Irish Erasmus program in 2019 and 2020. But the coronavirus had a serious impact on student mobility. So in the School of Modern Languages and Applied Linguistics, we spent our summer 2020 putting in place exceptional modules to offer an alternative to our students enrolled in the BA in Applied Languages, the BA in Joint Honors, students of international business, and also business with a European language, French, German, or Spanish. So the aim was to offer a virtual mobility, or in other words, internationalization at home, where students would work in collaboration with native speakers of their target language. So the modules were embedded in the curriculum and adopted a blended learning approach. It means that there was a mix of online synchronous tutorials for the first 6 weeks and a virtual exchange for the last 6 weeks of the semester. So I'm going to talk about the virtual exchange that took place in the second half of the autumn semester 2020. We called the project Erasmusspeak. It involved a number of partner universities, one in Austria, 2 in France, 1 in Germany, and 1 in Spain. So the main aims were to develop students' target language. And in non-pandemic times, students are expected to come back from their mobility abroad with a level B2 of the Common European Framework of References. And this was maintained last semester. Other goals were to enhance the students' cultural awareness and digital literacy. So I'm going to talk to you now about the guiding principle for this project. We wanted to set up online activities where students could practice and develop their oral and written communication skills. We also wanted to create a set of tasks that supported active collaboration and student engagement. We had to enable our students to become independent and self-motivated learners. We also wanted to place equal emphasis on languages and culture. We wanted to facilitate peer learning through scaffolding and feedback. And finally, we wanted to provide students with a flexible framework for task-based learning. So while implementing the virtual exchange, we met some challenges or variables. They were mainly due to the asymmetric features between the institutions, such as a different academic calendar or a different time zone. Differences in language proficiency, maybe students from one institution at a very high level, whereas the ones from the partner institutions, were lower level. Maybe partners also had the task preference. There were differences in student numbers. And last but not least, the weight of the project in the curriculum may have differed. And this is partly problematic. You will see when one institution has the project embedded and graded, and the other partner institution has it on a voluntary basis. But we were able to alleviate these difficulties by having flexibility in the task design. So this means discussion within UL, but also with our partners. And also by having solid partnerships and committed coordinators. So here on this slide, you can see a description of the virtual exchange project. 2 languages were at play. Students were ideally working in tandems, sometimes trios. It lasted for 6 weeks and they had to complete 3 tasks. We really emphasize and encourage students to use synchronous communication as well as asynchronous communication. So technologies such as Zoom, WhatsApp, FaceTime. And students had to submit 1 task per fortnight on their virtual learning platform, so Solis for UL. And in UL, they were graded, well, the modules were pass, fail. Now, these were slightly adapted for the business students and they were graded. So the 3 tasks were the following. Task number 1, students had to do a virtual tour of campus. So following discussion and interaction via WhatsApp or Zoom or text messaging, students then had to make a multimodal presentation of their partner's campus and culture. For task 2, students had to decide on a movie or a TV series they would watch, and following discussion, again, and interaction, they would have to write, excuse me, to write an opinion piece on what they watched, and they had to write it in a target language. And finally, for task 3, which was like a book club or a cultural chat show, students had to conduct and record a radio interview on a cultural artifact in the respective target languages. So really, they had to create a podcast. So here you can see some of the students' submissions. So this is task 1, where they present the campus of their partners. So they used PowerPoint, Prezi video, Google Docs. For the second task, where they had to create an article or a blog entry about a film or a TV series, you can see they were really creative and they used technologies such as Canva, Newspaper Club, or WordPress. And for the third task, the podcast, the interview, so they used 3 different tools. On the top right, you can see Anchor, which is a smartphone application, and it really enables users to create professional sounding podcasts, even if you are geographically distant. You can add jingles and music and make transitions. On the bottom of the screen, you can see a screenshot of a Zoom call. Okay, so students could use the audio only, but actually mainly also chose to leave the cameras on. And they really surprised us. If you look at the top left, this is a submission that was not expected. They used technology that we didn't even know about. So this is a screenshot from a YouTube clip. And students used the technology that enabled them to have their pictures on the screen. And their face would be highlighted each time they spoke. It looked really, really professional. So as you can see, students really were encouraged to use multimodal tools, and there was a lot of room for creativity so that they could enhance their digital literacy while learning about each other's culture and practicing their language skills. So this brings us to the feedback that students provided us in questionnaires, One person said, I feel more motivated to learn French, as this program has given me an opportunity to discover more about the French culture and the French language. Another student wrote, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience and I found that my German knowledge was improved. I feel that my love for German has been sparked again. Or we could also read, I found the virtual exchange extremely useful for mobility, as it gave me a chance to pick up on the colloquialisms and informal language that you can use with people your age while abroad. At the start, our emails were quite formal, but once we moved over to WhatsApp and got to know each other, the conversation became very relaxed and informal. We also received feedback from students that was not from the questionnaires. We saw this on their LinkedIn site. I have just received my Erasmus Plus virtual exchange badge. Despite these unprecedented times, UL found a way to make this exchange possible. It was a great experience. So overall, it was very positive. The limitations of the project expressed by students concerned mainly the logistics and the workload. Some also highlighted that despite the benefits of the virtual exchange, it could not replace actual physical mobility. One of the achievements of the Erasmusspeak project is that it has been officially recognized as an Erasmus Plus virtual exchange. So 2 of the UL coordinators had received a training to implement such online exchanges in the years prior to the pandemic, and they were aware of the criteria that had to be met. So thanks to this expertise, coordinators and students who completed the 3 tasks successfully also received an Erasmus Plus badge. So on the screen, you can see the competencies that the project developed for the participants. So I'm just going to read a few: digital competence, intercultural competence, transversal skills, plurilingualism, cooperation skills, empathy and sensitivity, etc. So on this slide, you can see the amount of students who received the badge. So in the first column, you can see all the partner institutions. In the second column, you can see the coordinators involved in the implementation of the project. And in the third column, you can see the amount of students who were registered. So there were 678 in total. And of these, 670 received the Erasmus Plus badge. The success rate in UL was quite high, and this is due to the fact that the project was embedded in the curriculum. This is a key factor, as I'm going to explain. So nearly 300 students from UL did receive the Erasmus Plus badge. So I'm going to end this presentation with some recommendations for future virtual mobility projects. Number 1, embedding the project in the formal curriculum if you can. Number 2, aligning tasks with learning outcomes. So be aware of what you are aiming at, what is your module intending to. Number 3, providing students with how-to tutorial videos and workshops, especially if there is new technology involved. So it can be a 2 or 3 minute video, for example, explaining how to use Canva or Padlet or Prezi. Number 4, this is for the coordinators, sharing rubrics for assessment. Number 5, monitoring and supporting students' engagement. Number 6, maintaining clear lines of communication with partners. Number 7, allowing flexibility with deadlines. Lots of discussion and communication with partners will help in this. And finally, awarding a badge or at least a certificate for the project completion. This is a great incentive for students. especially if students are doing the project on a voluntary basis. They need something. So this brings me to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me or my colleagues.